going to require it as
I
well.
was going to say LAFCO.
Correct.
Have policy and state law requires LAFCO.
State law
requires that they cannot approve an entity unless there's sufficient financial resources available to it. Now,
Right.
it may be LAFCO would determine that they can't sustain themselves, but they can rely on the county to backfill, and I don't think LAFCO will. I mean, theoretically, I guess they could satisfy that requirement of the state law, but that's something, a financial analysis of the wherewithal, and state law now requires that every 5 years that LAFCO conducts what they call as a municipal service review in the MSR, in which they look at the viability of an entity, both financially and otherwise, on an ongoing basis. So if you have entities that are created now, but 20 years from now don't have viability, then LAFCO can begin proceedings to consider how to consolidate or abolish or modify. Yeah. So the state's pretty adamant about that.
Maybe that's going to clarify something.
Yes. Clinton Davis, co-chair of the working group. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have requested from LAFCO through John Manuel that there be a kill clause. The last thing we want to do is place any liability on the county if the district goes into receivership. So we have requested that, and we also portrayed the same thing to the other board in Modoc County. So that is the intent. Also, we've added this year that if it fails, that it cannot come back for another election without another complete new process.
This is it.
Yeah, pretty much.
For now, at least this is.
And we're shooting for May 5th. That's the legal date that the state allows for a ballot election by mail. The next one would be August, the last Tuesday in August. And in order to get on the tax roll for the new board to compile the tax list to turn into the collectors, it would just be a physical impossibility. And we would like to start the service by January 1 if we can, of 2016.
And so we come to your second question. And your question is about initial board of directors. And it's a question that I've not told Mr. Davis my answer on that yet because I'm afraid I didn't want to give him the Christmas present that I didn't learn. And that
No,
is,
I will not be on the board.
No. My research shows that filling of those seats, formation of this district is pursuant to the Community Service District Reform Law, 61,000 for government. And I think it's 61021 that says that the initial board of directors shall be seated pursuant to uniform district election law, and that does not allow for appointment. And that calls for elections themselves. Precisely. I'll look for some way of dealing with that as effectively as I can. But
So when the election is called, after LAFCO acts and it comes back for us to call for the election, then part of that election process,
Possibly.
a ballot election, would include election of a board of directors.
possibly. I'd like to talk to Mr. Davis about that after we recess from here today. Did you ask the question, Mr. Supervisor, and I feel we understand you directly?
Yeah, I'd rather know sooner than later.
You can create and form a district and not be able to choose the directors to do that.
Well, yes, you can. We've done it before, and it was the Honey Lake Valley Water District. It was formed, and yet it's not constituted. And so they'd not be able to take any action until the seats are filled. But
Good enough?
Okay.
Okay. Aaron, you need any questions? Okay, is there any more questions on the staff reports from the public? Seeing none, Susan, is there any correspondence?
I know of.
Anybody wish to speak in favor of this?
I do.
You go forward, you first.
Thank you.
Good. Anybody wish to speak against? Okay. Then we'll close the public hearing at 11:35 and bring it back to the board.
I would move a, is there a resolution number on this, or how do you?
Well, not yet.
It will be 15-02.
Yeah, I would move approval of the resolution, what did you say, Susan, 13?
15-02.
15-02.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Any more discussion? Any more questions from the public? We'll vote on it. Roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Alba?
Aye.
Supervisor Humphrey?
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond?
Aye.
And Supervisor Hyde?
All right. Okay. Thank you, people, for coming up here, for coming down here.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move on. H1, U.S. Forest Service, California Department of Food and Ag. Yeah, Bill. See ya.
See you. So, we have this agreement grant that we're into. I need to adjust my appropriations to be able to expend the money that we can get grant. We agreed to push my expenditures. So I'm requesting increase revenue appropriation by $19,599 for the general fund, and increase expenditure appropriation by the same amount. Requires four fifths vote.
Question. Eric?
On your overall project, little trade on the first page, where you're talking about aggressively working toward eradication of the weeds, how come, why isn't Dyer's World White Top first provide a start official part of that?
This grant with CDFA, they're the ones that determine what we should be wanting to fund and work on, so that's why we wrote the grant to meet the needs of them. Basically, it's an A-rated weed program, not, puncture vine, Dyer's Wood. The Dyer's Wood's A-rated. Some of the weeds you mentioned were
Start official,
star thistle. It was an A-rated pest in Lassen County.
Marshall Dyer's what?
C-rated.
White Top?
C.
All of them.
I think puncture vines might be C-rated.
You rated for you.
Well, they're all noxious to you, right?
Put them in your feet, good, up and down the streets, barefoot.
My bike tires.
There's a lot of it in town.
Oh, got a infestation in the alley behind you there.
Okay.
I have a question, Craig, is what here. Is all this here right around over here, in this side, is there anything out over in Westwood, or Ravendale, or Big Valley? Lassen County, is everything all right down here?
We got some all the way out in South County, Doyle area. Just going down the list here. There's a lot in the city of Susanville, no doubt about it. Some of these populations that were selected out for this grant were small, hopefully eradicatable type infestations. They're not huge, so by a site. So let's say you have 15 plants located in an area, well, we want to be able to eradicate them, and those are a priority. Those pioneering populations, when they're small, I don't care what weed species we're talking about, if you want to control it, that's the time to control it, not to wait until you have 100 acres of white top, and we need to be on it when we have 5 plants growing and it's noticeable, and those are the ones that we're targeting on this list. So, but we're, we got Milford, Highway 36, Richmond Road, Highway 44.
That was my question. Some of these weeds along the roads that are 6 feet tall, are they included in this?
Mm-hmm.
Are they?
Yeah.
So have we not been spraying?
No, we spray them.
Okay. So we spray them and then we need the road department to cut them because we've got some real visual problems on the roads, especially in
They
standard.
do a lot of cutting.
In fact, that's always been a real priority for us, is to do the like 395, the corridors. That's what people see when they come driving through. And especially on the county right away when you have private road on it.
I don't think they did a little bit of mowing last year because they started the Space Park fire.
So, you know, the mowers spread the weeds, so we like to get them sprayed before the mowers mow.
Okay.
And we have contact with California to do that.
Oh, you do?
Yes. So,
No questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Motion is second. We need a first, fifth vote on this, Madam Clerk, for the board.
Supervisor Chapman.
aye.
Supervisor Alba.
Aye.
Supervisor Hunter.
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond.
Aye.
Supervisor Miller.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Get to work, right?
Yeah, good work. You've been around here long enough. Okay, what headlines in it? I missed page 3. I got page 3 and page 4. No, I did read it.
Thank goodness.
Page 3.
That's the one.
Mr. Chairman, we've had a request from the El Dorado Chamber of Commerce that was discussed at the Coordination Council a few months ago. The Chamber is trying to coordinate a meeting of Northern California counties that would deal with the specific issue of how socioeconomic issues are dealt with in federal scoping and environmental documents when it comes to their actions that they take on federal lands. There's a component that requires them to take into consider social and economic considerations when they take action. It's the feeling of, I think, our coordination council and many others that they have not been doing so in regards to timber plants, for example, timber sales, grazing, etc. So this group is attempting to convene a meeting to discuss that specific issue. Our coordination council supports that effort and recommend that the county contribute money to this effort in the amount of $500. They're asking many of the other counties to contribute to try to facilitate that. If they do that, I certainly would like to participate in that meeting. I'm sure supervisors would as well. So originally they contemplated having it in Susanville for some logistical reasons. Planning on having the first one now in Chico, I believe, and another one at another location. So I recommend we make that contribution.
Question?
Not necessarily a question, but it's more of a statement. I mean, all these federal agencies, you have to go through like the NEPA process, and that is the biggest complaint, because they use NEPA as for the environmental thing. And rather than focus on the socioeconomic impacts that some of their alternative options will do it. They just purposely neglect that, and it's just been an environmental movement, and that's why it's just been hammered. I mean, they have everything they need. They can put in the NEPA if they want, they just choose not to do it.
Right.
I mean, it's their conscious decision and choice, and I don't know how to change that. I mean,
Well, that's exactly the crux of this.
I mean, we can talk about it all day long, but until they put it in there, and that's the reason why we don't have any more lumber mills in Mohawk County or Lassen County. I mean, it's getting tougher and tougher. And then why they impose all these rules and regulations on the grazing?
Yeah, nobody can argue that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You know, to spend a bunch of money to.
Well, they count on the fact that, they have jurisdictional power over a broad geography, and we're geographically broken up into little pieces. And so what this here does is maybe enough of those pieces come together, we can form a platform that can go with each other on their level of authority. I think that's beneficial. I believe that we support the request and $500 to help make this happen. I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? Anybody from the public have any comment? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Page 5, information, board supervisor, Mr. Dale.
Just, Mr. Chairman, just one item. I plan on attending a workshop in Sacramento on Friday regarding the new groundwater legislation. Look forward to hearing the news on that and reporting back to you next week.
We have an I-1.
I-1, we got a letter.
This doesn't happen every day.
Yeah, let's not let this go past without some notoriety. Where's Warren? He's so unaccustomed to being here for something like this. He
Probably in Mountain Life flights.
Or, I just want to know, is this something that was hacked in North Korea?
Again, the North Koreans.
I've got this thing about North Korea.
For the record, that
How about us is on the Central Command?
No, I know. Did you hear about that?
Let's get back on track, guys.
for the record, that's a letter from Greenleaf commending and thanking the planning staff for their efforts in helping them work through projects.
Does anybody in this room have anything they want to bring up this time before you go back into closed session? Sir?
Are you going to come back from closed session and continue, or what?
We're done with this agenda. We had some issues in closed session we didn't finish, so after that, we will report out of closed session.
So if you have something to,
You got something you want to tell us now, it's probably the best time.
All right, I was just here because of the VFW and American Legion.
Can you state your name, please, for the
Oh,
record?
I'm sorry, Louis Wheeler. And we, who are members of the veteran associations, are a little worried about how they're talking, social services, some people are talking about doing different things to the building and moving things around, when in 1925, when that building was built by the board supervisors of that time and also the World War I returning vets, it was the understanding that it was for the VFW and American Legion to run it and to actually benefit from it. And I don't understand, and a lot of other people have been questioning why they're talking about kicking us out of there.
Okay, I don't know, Richard, do you have any information on that?
Not aware of anybody being kicked out anywhere, but I think maybe the appropriate forum to discuss this is at the task force meeting tomorrow at 1:30. The memorial building task force meeting is tomorrow at 1:30 out in the
Oh,
memorial.
well, thank you.
And more to the point, it's not agendized, so I assume we're taking this by way of public comment.
Well, I went back to public comment.
That's how I took
You
it.
didn't hear me say that?
Under public comment.
I'll get you going.
Under the public comment.
Thank you very much.
I think there's been a fair amount of misinformation that's been spread around, whether intentional or benign or whatever that is. I think it directly relates to a newspaper article from last week dealing with apparently the presentation that Melody made at the December meeting, which I actually had to leave because I went across for the whole board meeting. So I was going to go back and read this article and find out the feedback I was getting. There is no, okay, first of all, the Veterans Building was built by the county, and it's to be utilized by veterans. And so the idea that the veterans would be kicked out of the building has never been entertained by the county. So whoever's generating that and putting that out, I think is not serving everybody's interest very well.
Well, there's
Okay,
other.
the utilization of the building, though, is that the veterans organizations don't control the building, and they don't have, basically the power to determine who does what. That still is something that is a responsibility of the county, and it's through the Veterans Memorial Task Force that's been in place now for 25 years. That kind of serves as the governing committee, and so those folks have the responsibility to mediate between the various users of the building in terms of how the building is best utilized. So if an individual or a group decides to just go do something, start nailing into the walls and stuff like that, they're going to obviously eventually going to have to account for that with the Veterans Task Force in terms of that utilization. The Department of Public Works is the department that is responsible for the maintenance of that particular building and responding to any of the physical needs. There's some people who've had the opinion that that is something that belongs either to the veterans groups or to the Veteran Service Office or whatever it may be. It's the Public Works Department that has physical control of the building. So those particular entities and departments and agencies or committees or organizations, if they're attempting to want to do some rearranging, they need to deal with the Department of Public Works and clear it through the Veterans Task Force. So that's the arrangement that's been in place for quite some time. And even though there have been Others have thought otherwise, and I think that's probably where some of the.
Well, that letter was very, I thought, pointed towards the fact that we weren't wanted. And that's
Well,
what people
I don't think
said
that's
about.
true, because 5 of the 9 seats that sit on the Veterans Task Force are the Veterans Organization, so unless the veterans decide to kick themselves out of the building, I don't think that is anything that's going to happen. And the other 4 members are the public agencies that support that. There's 1 public member at large, so obviously that person, could be. But I know those of us who sit on that task force are committed to maintaining that as a viable facility that is utilized by the veterans and utilized by the community at large. And it is the seat of where the veterans lie. So hopefully that helps, Mr. Chairman. And tomorrow's meeting of the Veteran Task Force would be an excellent opportunity.
Where would that be at?
It's at the Veterans Hall.
Oh, at the Veterans Hall at 1:30.
In the auditorium, yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about it.
If there's a copy of the letter that you mentioned, I'd like to see it. Did you mention?
I haven't read the letter. My name's Todd Connor. I'm a former VSO. I'm not sure if the letter had addressed
I haven't seen a letter.
I haven't either.
the December meeting, Board of Supervisors meeting, had addressed downsizing the VSO position to the management level position from department head. I'm not sure if the letter had addressed that or if the kind of
What is the letter that you're referring
addressed
to?
that.
What letter are you referring to?
From Melody Brawley?
It was just mentioned a few minutes ago. I believe it.
By who?
Well, I'd seen a draft of, I believe, the minutes from, it was proposed by Melody Brawley to downsize the department.
So the action that occurred on December 16th by Ms. Brawley?
Yes.
And you're talking about a letter that she presented?
Yes.
Okay. That should all
To
be
the Board of Supervisors.
part of the agenda packet from that day. That should all be part of the record available on the clerk's website.
Right, and that's what I'm
Oh,
referring
okay.
to.
All right. Thank
I was
you.
wondering if the Planners Council that'll be held tomorrow at 1:30 will address that.
No, the management of the veteran, and we're getting way off topic here. The management organization of the veteran service officer was discussed at the last meeting. It's in the very early stages of discussion of changes to that organization.
Right, and that's going to be held in the
Right.
future.
Yeah, that's not within the purview of the Veteran Building Task Force. So that issue we'll discuss tomorrow. It will be discussed in a future meeting of this board.
Tentative meeting, or
The
is there
the date hasn't been established yet.
It hasn't been agendized.
I'm looking at the minutes of December 9th, which, since I left at 3:33 p.m., there are 3 items that were considered, and it states here, Veteran Service Subject, proposed reorganization of Veteran Service Office, receive proposal and provide input and direction. Director Melody Brawley presents reorganization of the Veteran Service Office, VSO. Discussion was held, staff was directed to move forward and bring a proposal to the board. That's all it's in the minutes. So there was no action taken other than the fact whenever.
And it continues on in the letter there, discusses.
No, this is the minutes I'm referring to here.
Okay.
So obviously, she probably had some presentation she made. I don't have that here. And that was what was apparently discussion was held on, and the remaining board members directed to have that come back as a proposal in a future meeting. So I don't know when that's going to happen.
It should happen within the next 30 or so days. I mean, it contemplates not downsizing the organization, but increasing some salaries and shifting the organization.
Well, it's minimizing the department head position to a management level position. And it's my opinion that it'd be disfranchised to veterans, and Code of Federal Regulations states that a veteran has to be, a veteran service officer has to be a veteran. So it would be disservice to a veteran.
Well, I don't think we want to get in that discussion of public comment.
Yeah, that's
We're
going to be
getting
an
way too
agenda.
deep here.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the agendas, and it'll come up if you're
I can add them to my email as
Outstanding.
well, Jeff,
Yeah,
so you give me
outstanding.
your email.
very good.
Good enough.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go back into closed session now to the business end, and we will be recording that closed session when we get there.